So let's go ahead and officially call the meeting to order. Glad to see everybody. Welcome. Hope you guys had a great holiday weekend. It's been since, what is now? It's April. I guess February is the last time we were all together. So glad to see you guys. Well, somebody was just referencing, looking at the minutes from February. So let's go forward with opening the discussion on the minutes from February. Any comments, questions? If none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
So moved. A second.
Second.
Right. Second from John. So any opposition to approving the minutes? I hear silence, so we will thereby consider the minutes, pardon me, from February meeting approved. Old business. Just touch on this real quick. Again, I want to thank you guys for all the work that you did on getting the survey out and done and getting folks to complete it. We did a summary presentation at the board meeting in March. I know, John, you were there. Gary, you were there. Just wanted to know, anybody had any questions, comments on what we delivered at that time?
What was the reaction?
Yeah, that was the reaction, is what I wondered.
Well, I'll open it up to our two board members who are on the call.
Yeah, I would say that there weren't many questions. You did a great job in putting it out there, but I think it was well received. I didn't see any negatives.
Nor did I. But now, in my view, and if nobody else has any comments, I'm just going to go. We're going to move on. I think now is where the real work begins.
Rob, can I just ask? Excuse
Go
me.
right ahead.
I just wondered. I mean, no reaction could be good, could be they ignored it. I mean, do we have any sense that anything that was said in your remarks, presentation to them, is they're going to take it up, they're going to move, they're going to do anything?
Well, again, what we presented was just a summary of the feedback that we've gotten from the community. We haven't really presented any kind of formal. Okay, well, here's the action plan to implement, or here's the go forth, marching orders or recommendation. That's what I was just kind of getting to. I think that's where our real work begins at this point. We've gotten the feedback from the community. We've kind of heard their issues, their concerns, their desires, their wishes, however you want to term it. Now we need to kind of drill down.
So we didn't, I mean, the board, Stuart and others didn't say, okay, great, now we hear what the people really want and we're going to look into that ourselves, or they're waiting for us?
Well, I'll tell you what, again, I'm going to open it up. Stuart's our liaison. Stuart, you want to chime in here?
Yeah, sure. If you want to come up with a charging document for any specific things, there are things that can be done. There are things that can't be done. If you give me some specifics, we can talk about them.
So guys, that's where we are, and that's why if you saw the note I sent out the other day in advance of the meeting with the agenda, kind of what I want to focus on is let's start drilling down in terms of the opportunities, as I like to refer to them, as the opportunities that we uncovered with this process. What are ones that are really realistic? I'll give you an example. Everybody is often talking about the cell phone coverage. Okay, that's an operational issue. That's something that's already working in process. And as someone who spent 29 years in that industry, I can say with great confidence that if AT&T and or Verizon, if they see a return on their investment, they'll do something about putting additional coverage or whatever the case would be needed down here. So I don't think there's a whole lot for us to do in that regard. So that's why I said we need to really look at. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
since you
Stuart.
kind of suspended Robert's rules, I think John Latham has something. He has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, John. I didn't
looked.
see that, but go right ahead, John. Thanks, Stuart.
Yeah, Rob, I think, and I was going to kind of say what Stuart said as far as the charging document, but I don't have that list right here in front of me, but it seems like when you went through that of like the 5 recommendations, 3 or so were already in progress of getting something done. So I think that's part of the answer. I think some of them are in flight. I
Yes.
guess the question to this committee would be, and probably to to our board and John Viola, kind of what's the status of them? And they're not right in front of me, so I can't remember all the wording. But I just wanted to kind of push that out, Rob.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, John. Yeah, and I duly noted, and that's kind of what I was just referring to there. This is an example of something that's already, to use your words, in flight. So I thought, like I said, let's take a look at. I think there might be some other areas though where we can have some impact and develop maybe some action plans. And one area that I want to at least start the conversation on, and we can move on, was the area about the core values. If you recall, just kind of recap, 4 years ago, we recommended and action was taken where we added core values to the governing documents of the community. And per the feedback from this survey, it looks like there might be some opportunity there for improvement. Now, some of those, if you look at that slide on core values, some of those are somewhat subjective, but I think there might be one, and I just grabbed this one for purposes of conversation because I think it may be a little bit more objective, and it also had to have the lowest score was transparency. So that tells me what the way I read that, the feedback that we got from the community on the survey on that issue was that they don't feel that they're getting all the intel, the information that they need to, that they'd like to, from leadership in the community. Now, it's probably fair to say that some of that is they're not looking in the right place. Just not looking for it in general, but maybe there is something that can be done. And what I was thinking of as a next step, and not just on this issue, but on any other issues we have here that we think we can develop a strategy and produce a charging document, is within our group here, we kind of develop some subcommittees and work outside of this monthly meeting to kind of deep dive into it a little bit more, and maybe even do some quote unquote focus groups with other committees. Another one that came up that I thought might be worth taking a look at is the boat ramp. Charging a fee for non-residents, I guess is the terminology. And maybe we put together a little subcommittee from us and work with marine activities. That might be something they're already working on. I don't know.
Well, Rob, one thing that I did was I took the results and I put them through an AI tool.
Okay.
And I asked for, give me the top 10 things most noted in the results. And it's kind of interesting what I saw. I'll give them to you, and this is no particular order as one over the other, but it's just the way it came up. The fitness center came up a lot.
Yeah.
The pedestrian and bicycle safety issues came up a lot.
Yeah.
Enforcement of property maintenance came up a lot. Improvement of existing amenities, drainage and water management, lower fees for residents, board transparency and communication, cell phone and internet connectivity, and community aesthetics and maintenance. Those are the top 10.
Right.
At least that's the way the AI tool saw it.
Yeah, and that and I did the same on that question 13, and that's kind of where I pulled the data from that we presented. And yeah, coming back to the cell phone, that's in there, but I don't think there's anything we're going to do here in this committee
Right,
that's
right,
going to, that's, to use John Latham's term, that's in flight.
right.
But transparency was part of that.
Yep.
So I noted that. I think that might be one we can look into is what else could be done that isn't being done in the way of communication from, and I'm going to say just leadership in general, because that's not, I don't think it's just the board. I think it's also, management. So I'll use the term leadership in general. What's being done that shouldn't be done, and what's not being done that could be done. So, as I said, I think a good idea on that issue and the others that we're going to dive into is, like I said, a little subcommittee, from the group to dive into it more. What are your thoughts on that in terms of a strategy to approach this?
Sure.
And I'm open to ideas of other ideas on how to do it.
Let me suggest, and I think that the 10 top ones that John mentioned, I mean, we sort of, other looks at it came up with very similar lists,
Yeah.
the top 10. And I wonder whether, I think communication to the community is key to all of this, but maybe, in my view, kind of a first step would be to say, maybe this group, but somebody analyze where we are on this. I mean, for example, one of the issues was, I don't know, better maintenance or better enforcement of property standards, leaves and ditches and so on. My kind of vague recollection is that there's a lot going on in those areas. And I wonder if somebody could produce an article, if you will, just as an example, to say, we completed a survey, these are the top 10, this is what is going on right now. We acknowledge, obviously there's always more work to be done, but in fact, the board is working on cell phone issues with the appropriate people. The board has started, or however you want to say it, has started to work on enforcement of the covenants. There are 3 or 4 other things there that I'm pretty sure are actively under work.
Absolutely.
Maybe somebody's going to tell you we'll work faster, but I mean, I think kind of setting a baseline here to let people know that we heard what you're saying, and this is what the initial response is going on right now.
I like that idea, Fred. Let me come back to that. I see Stuart's got his hand up, but then Fred will come back on your on your point there. Go ahead, Stuart.
Thanks, Rob. Frankly, this group, this group that's on this particular board, I don't think we can be more transparent than we are. We share everything. Give us examples of how we're not transparent. The community asked us to enforce our DRs to clean up the unsightly houses. We're doing that. Now we're getting backlash that folks are getting violations that they've never had before because they've lived here for 30 years and they've done whatever. But this is what we were asked to do. Give me examples of how this group has not been transparent. We are transparent on almost every move that we do. The stuff that we can't be transparent with are personnel issues or are legal things that are proceeding. So we can't share those things, but we share everything. Give me examples of the lack of respect or the lack of our work on our drainage issues. Our drainage problems have decreased significantly. Take a look at some of those massive rains we've had. They're clearing out a lot faster because the culvert ditches are being attended to, because we've asked people to do that. People are still asking about the Leaf vacuum truck. We haven't had the Leaf vacuum truck for like 2 years because people were raking their entire yard to the curb and abusing that, and it was the machine kept breaking down. So we can't afford that. I mean, does everybody want to pay an extra $25 or $50 in their assessment for the leaf vacuum truck? I don't think so. We got a huge issue coming up, and we've been incredibly proactive on the wastewater issue that's happening. It's going to affect everybody in Ocean Pines. We're going to hit probably at least between $30 and $40 hit quarterly on our water bill coming up. That's this year. Next year, if this plan goes through because of what the county commissioners are doing, not Commissioner Bertino or Bunting, those guys are working for an actual solution. The other commissioners in Worcester County, if that plan goes on, we're looking at maybe $300 or $400 increase in our wastewater. This board has been incredibly proactive. We're at the town meetings. We're pushing out press releases. We're asking everybody to write to our county commissioners. We have our legal counsel involved. We just sent out a letter to the commissioners. This board, I mean, I'm sorry, when I see transparency is an issue, not with this group. So I'm sorry, I'm
Well,
I'm a
some
little
of that could be
passionate.
left over because there's a lot of hangover, from years ago when the board wasn't that way. So that may be some of that. Number one. Number two, you're never going to make everybody satisfied with everything.
Oh,
But
I
think one of
know.
Yeah.
the,
Trust me, I got a target on my back.
yeah, one of the most important things I think the survey does for the board is, points out those areas of interest and concern in the community, and so like a lot of it's perception, and no matter how many press releases you put out, nobody, people don't read and stuff, but the kind of things that I might do if I were on the board was maybe have somebody put out an article about all the things you're doing on the drainage, for example,
Well,
so that
That,
like
that
a
goes out
story.
every
Yeah.
that goes out every quarter.
yeah. Well, I'm sorry, Wes, I don't want to cut you off. Was there anything else?
No,
you wanted
that's
to add?
okay. I was just thinking maybe like a story in the paper, though, not just the things that people have to look online to see, but some other kind of a a thing like I love reading the articles about the people that work. The people that work for
Oh, yeah.
the association, and the different things that they do. So you highlight some guy that's the leaf raker out of the ditches, and you talk about that person, how good a worker they are, but then it also talks about the work that they do. Different things like that, maybe to try to address some of these things. Because I think you're right, Stuart. I think this board has been very transparent, and we've had a good board for a number of years. And the people that work, I've dealt with the people in the office, and I love the people. They're very helpful and very nice people. But not everybody gets the opportunity to be engaged that much. And I think it's as much a perception as it is reality. But the good thing about the survey is it points out where people are thinking about.
Yeah, you got a point. I didn't mean to cut you off, Rob.
No, it's
People look for answers on social media when they have questions instead of emailing our administration. Our team is an incredible group of dedicated professionals that are here to serve the association members. Honest to God, this group is really tops, from our GM all the way down. I mean, listen to the Pines Cast. You'll hear the different employees and their and Tony Russo does a really good job, by the way. If you listen to it, they're not that long. They're about a half an hour long max, and you get a real insight into some of the folks that work for us. And we have a great team, and if people have misinformation, email info@oceanpines.org. Any question, Linda is on top of that. They get back to you that day, if not within a couple hours, and with an actual answer.
Yeah, and I think that was the results and the feedback.
I'm going to go back and be a fly on the wall. I don't mean to hog your meeting.
Turn on your cloaking device.
Rob?
No, but a good point there, though, Stuart, because I think that was also reflective in the positive results we got about customer service. But what Wes, what I think what you were alluding to there is kind of what Fred was the path that Fred was going down there a moment ago. That okay, we did a summary presentation to the board meeting, but maybe we follow that up with more of a press release type article. Here's what the top issues were. Here's what's being done on them as of today. But then behind that, I still think we can look at maybe a top three where there is a realistic opportunity for action to be taken. And let's go back. You can use the example of transparency, and Stuart, your message was loud and clear. But maybe we do go ask those, get a little focus group together with some of the other committees. It could be as simple as that. Hey, people are telling us, transparency is an issue. Give some examples. What's not being done that should be done?
Rob?
What's being done that shouldn't be done? Go ahead, Gary.
Everything that Stuart mentioned is accurate. The problem is that the survey is looking at people's perceptions. And if the perceptions are wrong, it's because there's not enough positive PR on what the board is doing favorably. So, everything, like I said, Stuart said, is absolutely true. It's a great board. They're doing a lot of good stuff, but the PR in getting the word out and showing people what's been going on isn't hitting everybody. So that would be where I would suggest the effort needs to be more on getting the word out, as Wes said. But again, it's the perception. So the board needs to do more, pardon me, to work on getting the publicity out on all the great stuff they're doing. We're only reporting what's on the survey. And if people are putting things down and we're saying that it is a misperception, then that's where the focus needs to be, in my opinion, is to let people know, hey, this was in the survey and people are saying, well, there's not enough communication, blah, blah, blah. But here's what's actually happening.
Yeah.
And put it out like that. One other thing I'll mention is from your report to the board and from what the Aquatics Committee got off of the survey, we now have 2 or 3 things that the Aquatics Committee was pushing for are now being handled. One was later hours at the pools. And we had hoped it would be during the week, but from Friday to Sunday, I think it's Racket and Sportswear Pool is going to be open till 8 o'clock. We've also now got an evening class at Mumford's Landing. So there are a couple of the things that we had suggested, the Aquatics Committee, that we got back up from the survey to show the board, hey, this really is an issue, and people want this, like the workout room or whatever. I don't think we're going to get it, but that's something that a lot of people were asking for. So, I think just putting the stuff out there in the committees or whatever, following up on it is actually having a positive effect.
Yeah. So Fred, come back to what you were.
Yeah, I mean,
a few minutes ago.
I don't want to. I think we have to be careful about, being defensive about everything. I mean, there are, as Wes said, you're never going to please everybody. And I think we've got to just keep pushing forward in a positive way And I think, I mean, maybe transparency isn't the issue to focus on, but there are, 8 or so that are out there, and we apparently are working on those things. And I think we need to communicate that. And I recognize that there are podcasts or things going on that present opportunities to hear about these things, but I personally don't look at those. There are 1,000 of those things going on. And frankly, what I look at, and I recognize that I'm old, I read the articles in the paper. So I see that it comes out once a week. And if you were to, for example, include an article about what a particular employee is doing, or you write an article about what the community is doing to enforce the standards. And yes, there are going to be people that start bitching about that if they're the ones that are penalized. But the fact of the matter is the community as a whole apparently feels like we could do a better job of cleaning up these spaces. And in fact, we are doing that job. So let's tell the community we are doing this in some form of communication. I like newspaper articles, but there are other ways as well. I don't know how effective any of those are, but I think you can't be defeatist about this. I mean, you've got to keep telling people, you got to keep telling people, you got to keep telling people.
Yeah.
I have a suggestion as well. Let's say we took top 3, top 5, top 10, whatever we picked, and we communicated, and we could communicate it in a variety of ways, like we've did actually the survey to begin with. That communication would be, here is an issue that we identified as a very important issue for the survey. And then we list kind of what it is, and then what has been done for it so far, and go each one down the line like that, kind of like what everybody's saying. That's the first part of it. The second part of it would be, how do we get the feedback from folks that want to comment on it? I think that's a little bit more thorny. There's probably a little bit of people campaigning and stuff like that going on in the background too. So we've got to be careful about that. But is there a way that we can get a feedback of, yeah, okay, fine. But getting some kind of dialogue started, I think will alleviate that. You've got some people in our community that have issues and they don't feel like they're being addressed. Well, maybe they are and they just don't know it. So again, communication, I think, is the key.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think the transparency is the issue here. I think it's getting the communication to the masses.
Yep.
And we have a lot of ways to get this information. As Stuart pointed out, you can send an email and so on. But the only issues with that is, one, some people are never going to do it. The old sit in the darkness and complain instead of lighting a candle. So number one, and number two, we have an older population that aren't as email and go online and look what there is to look at. And I think those are parts of the problem as well. There's I don't remember if the progress gets mailed to us. I think it does get mailed. I pick mine up generally. I find it around the community, the places that have it out, and read it there. But knowing that these are issues, having articles in places like the Progress or Bayside Gazette, would probably help that somewhat. You're never going to get rid of everybody because nobody's reading anything. Some people are just not reading anything, but being proactive on the communication, I think, will help some of these numbers.
Yeah. Well, I really like what you're talking about here, Fred. And hey, John, your AI tool.
Yeah.
Did that have did that generate a printout that you have?
Yeah, I'll share the top 10 in the chat window if you want.
Yeah, because I'd be curious to see, because I did the same thing with the help from again, another one of those fantastic Ocean Pine staffers, Mr. Josh. Just compare how yours came out to mine.
Sure.
And then I think what you're saying, Fred, is a good idea. And I would propose maybe, Fred, you and I get together with Linda Yerchi on communications and putting together a quote unquote press release. Here's what you guys told us. Okay. We've given a summary, just kind of summary of this to the board, but here's where we are on this. Again, like the cell phone, I'm using that as an example. Our got him having a brain numb, our police commissioner. He's actively working that. I'd venture to
Right.
guess probably vast majority of our community isn't aware of that.
Yeah, I just put it, by the way, in the chat window if you want to
Okay,
look at it.
great. And we can, put some bullet points. Here's what we're doing on drainage. I'm going to just throw that one out there as an example. And just kind of, give a summary and we can work with communications people to get it out to the local press.
Yeah, Rob, I was just
Line.
saying, I know Stuart has his hand up, but I mean, I think my experience with the newspapers is if you basically give them an article, we'll put it in. Or you
Yeah.
get, I mean, a press release alone doesn't, I don't think, I mean, I know we issue tons of press releases and they may not make it in, but if you help the newspapers craft something, not that you're looking for your byline, but just to get the information out there, they're happy to fill their pages with articles.
Yeah. Well, I was just using the term press release kind of generic.
Okay, fine.
That's I'm not the media guy, but
Right.
I think we can work. I said work with Linda and the communications committee. Go ahead, Stuart.
Yeah, again, when our police chief, Chief Robinson, brought up the issue of trying to get better cell service, there was an entire group of people that thought we were building a cell tower in their backyard and passed all this misinformation around and caused so much angst, and that wasn't true.
Yeah.
And I called the gentleman out at the board meeting. I'm like, listen, there's no plans at this time to build a cell tower. He's looking at how can we maybe position different antennas on whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it got passed around that it's going to be built and it was a done deal and they were going to start construction. And that was misinformation. And I don't know how to combat people thinking that because we brought up a topic that it's a done deal. We're all
Well,
looking at better
yeah.
cell service in Ocean Pines.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
going to go become a fly on the wall. Sorry to intrude again.
But and that's hopefully what we can endeavor on this next step in putting out an article. Here's what you told us was your concerns, and here is what actually is being done.
It's
Does
Terry.
that make sense? Go ahead, Terry.
On your topic, I think that's a great idea. You're never going to hit everyone. This isn't a small 100, 200 home community. You're going to miss people, large amounts of people. And kind of it's up to us to get our news in some way. But I think to piggyback you with if this article or press release should happen, emphasize in there also, and you may have already thought of this, but emphasize that if they're hearing other things or, these are the things being done, this is what's being worked on. But if they're hearing other things, it should be important to really highlight, bold, contact that info, email.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, word of mouth, should they contact, they find out, and then they tell the truth to the real people who they're hearing it from. It's hopeful anyway.
Good
I
points.
just think it's
Good point. Good point.
They need to
Yeah.
know where, I knew about the info, I think, but I'm not sure everybody, I don't know what people know, but I
Yeah.
think if it's really noted in the article, maybe some people would actually reach out, and then word of mouth is everything. They can re-inform those who were misinformed in some ways.
Good points. Good points. Okay. So, all right. So, John, I think you said you put it in the chat. Would you just also do me a favor and send that to me in an email?
I'll do it.
John Latham, I see your hand up. Give me a minute. I'll come to you. And then Fred, would you be willing, you and me sit down
Yes.
and kind of, go through that, and then we can get together with Linda and we'll make sure, whatever we put out there, that we go to the board, go to management. Hey, we want to tell people what's going on here, make sure we're giving accurate information. So we'll be sure to do that. John, go ahead, John Latham.
Hey, Rob, sorry, you just kind of answered my question. Where
Okay.
I was going to suggest, certainly the communications, Linda Gertzi with
Yeah.
the communications can
Yeah.
certainly help, because they work with the other to create some of the communications and kind of the frequency, what works, what doesn't work. And
Yeah.
I'll just say is that, communication is obviously important, but we have a fair amount of folks that don't attend meetings, don't read anything, and we only hear from them when there's an issue. And there's nothing that we're going to do about that. Only thing, if we can make some improvement, I think everybody would certainly be support something like that. So.
Yeah. And I'll come back. Thanks, John. And I'll come back to your last comment just in a second, but I started thinking about this. Somebody asked me right when we started the meeting if there were any questions. Did I get any questions when I did the summary to the board? The one question I did get was, where was this survey? I never saw it.
Oh, that's right.
Something like that. And I just kind of shook my head, and Stuart I think Stuart, chimed in, said, well, it was there, it was here, it was there, email. We sent it to your email address. It was in the Ocean Pine. So anyway, going back to that whole point about you're just not going to hit everybody. There's just no way. But to John Latham, to your last point a moment ago, I think this board, this management team is doing a great job. But yes, if there are some things we could do better, let's go and find them. And if that results in improvement, and even if it's just a little bit, that's a positive thing. So, all right, so that's a good next action step. So Fred, you and I'll work together on that and put together a document that.
Yeah, just that, do we need to talk to John Viola? I mean, I think to get the answers to a number of these issues, what's going on with the ditches, what's going on with the cell phones, what's going on with this or that, we'd need to talk to 5 or 6 different people probably.
Yeah.
And do we need somebody to let them know that it's okay to talk to you?
Well, I'll funnel that through Stuart.
Okay.
I'll funnel that through Stuart. Okay. All right. So that'll be part of the action plan. Go ahead, Stuart.
info@oceanpines.org will
there you
answer
go.
all of your questions.
Okay. There we go. Thanks. But let's come back to the I guess the first question I pose, and we can work in concert. Again, what are your all's perceptions from the feedback that we got in terms of are there opportunities there where we definitely can explore, take a deeper dive into, where it's not much, if anything, is being done at this point, to the best of our knowledge? Is there anything that you guys think of that we heard from the community that we need to really safety related? I come back to the boat ramp. I know that maybe was more of the top 10, but I know marine activities is hearing about that one.
Well, one thing that I would say, this is on the safety issue, and I've raised this with maybe the past boards, I don't know, for a couple of years, and nothing's been done about it. There's a sort of a walking path, a running path right here at Whitehorse Park. It goes past that. It starts sort of between the firehouse and the that pad there, that cement pad there. Anyway, there's a lot of roots up there that really can trip up people. And you know, I suppose one option would be to cut those routes. Maybe that's not the best option. Maybe another option is to put down a bed of gravel. But that's been there for years, and it's been raised to Ocean Pines for a number of years. And unless you tell me that it was fixed last week and I'm wrong, I think that's an issue that is out there. And I think that's probably what some people are worried about, along with, you know, walking in the dark in black clothes, you know, doing stupid things like that, or biking. You know, those are the safety issues.
Yeah, I think that's part of a bigger issue of just pedestrian and bicycle paths all over the Pines. So that might be something that there's an opportunity to analyze.
Okay,
Rob,
go ahead. Gary.
one of the things that just came to mind is a number of these items that we're talking about, whether it's a boat ramp, safety issues, communications, cleaning up the tree stumps and all that bit. There are specific advisory committees that are dealing with each of those. So maybe one of the first steps we should take is to get together with the Marine, Environmental, Communications, and Rec and Parks committees and kind of review what was on the survey that those committees would be directly dealing with.
And Gary, that's a great point, and that's kind of where the path I was kind of heading down earlier on. That's exactly what I think we should do. I mentioned the boat ramp, and I'm going to communicate with Marine Activities on that. Parks and Rec.
Well, Parks
You
and
think
Rec,
about Parks and Rec for what Fred was just
Well-
referring to there?
Yeah, the bicycle and pedestrian.
Yeah,
paths,
okay.
Yeah.
Got it,
the,
okay.
the committee is very interested in the safety of the trails and bikes and all that bit. Environmental is very interested in the tree stumps and keeping the different parks in good shape. So again, and I don't know if this would be realistic or not, but maybe we could have a group meeting where the chair and anybody else from each of those committees got together with our committee and had a sit down and just kind of went over everything that was in the survey.
That's in line of what I was thinking. Right, we kind of do,
Yeah.
or Gary do, like in focus groups with those other committees and see what actions are being taken, what actions could be taken. We can work in concert with them based on the feedback we've got. So here, Terry, go ahead.
I was just wondering, I was thinking the same exact thing. It's come up in another committee I'm on. I'm wondering, and I guess this is.
Oh,
Terry, we lost you.
she muted herself.
Yeah, you did. Hello, Terry. You muted your mic, Terry. Maybe she did it on purpose because they're.
They're banging on the walls in there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's do this. So, John, you sent me your AI report. I'm going to bounce it off mine. What I'll endeavor to do, and I'll enlist your guys' help on this, is identify, okay, bike safety. That's Parks and Rec. Transparency. I'm just throwing out examples here. Hey, that's maybe communication with Linda Yerge's group. Figure out what's the other committee where that would fall under, and that we can then focus group with those guys.
Sure, I think that's
And I'll
great.
just what I'll just do is just like Gary, you're on Marine you're not on Marine Activities, but you're on aquatics. So if there's anything there, John, you're on you're on another committee, aren't you?
No,
You're
No.
not? Okay. I don't know, I was thinking you were, but what I'll do is just ask each one of you to, if you would like take the lead. Hey, here's one of the issues. Here's our sister brother committee. Reach out to them and let's dig into it.
Yeah.
See what the opportunity is, see what the potential action item, solution, strategy would be,
Hello?
and also what's being done. What's being done on it. And we can ask questions through the info line if we need to get feedback from leadership. Go ahead, Terry. You got muted off.
Yeah,
there a minute ago.
I didn't mute it. It automatically muted me. I don't know why. But anyway, I guess I was just going to say, I think you covered it. It's come up on another committee, which that getting together, and I know it couldn't be all the committees, but somehow have the different directors or the communications that are the things that are happening with the different committees be accessed, so that you're not recreating the wheel, like, this one's sending a document for this and it's being already done by another committee. And, it seems like there's a lot of spinning.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a possibility. I don't know how many committees there are, but to know what other committees are working on and to work together, I think is a huge part of this communication issue.
I don't disagree. And in fact, I recall back when this committee was, I'm going to use the term reconstituted. That may not be the right term, but kind of reignited, 5-6 years ago, whatever it was. That was how we envisioned it, that we would sort of be, the various other committees would kind of funnel things up through us to ultimately then submit to the board. Never materialized that way. So yeah, I think you've had a number of things going on in the community where the right hand don't know what the left hand is doing, and they're both doing the same thing. Terry, what's the other committee? Terry, what's the other committee you serve on?
Parks and Rec.
There we go. Okay.
Perfect.
Outstanding.
But I do have to say, we are constantly walking the parks and checking things. And I know that our director is always putting in charging documents for cleanups and things like that, and things have been getting done. So, there's a lot of parks and there's only a few of us, but we do work hard to try and make sure that, things stay safe as possible. But, there's always progress to be made.
Right. Hey, Terry, I know when you first submitted your application for this committee, you'd mentioned to me, at least I thought, if I remember correctly, that your husband was also looking to engage. What committee is he serving on? Or is he?
He's on Parks and Rec too. We both kind of signed up for that, and then I saw the strategic and having that background.
Okay.
So
all right.
Yeah.
I was just curious. All right.
He's the former athletic director. So.
Oh wow. Okay. All right. So John Lynch, you'll send that if you haven't already.
It's you already have it.
Okay, great, thanks. And I'll bounce it off mine, and then Fred, you and I'll circle up with communications, but then also we'll take a look at that list and see if we can identify. Okay, here's an issue that, if you drill down, would fall under the purvey of Parks and Rec, marine activities, environmental, and I'll reach out to you guys, Wes, Gary, because I don't know that there was anything that came up that was specifically germane to aquatics. So I'm like,
there were a number of them.
Yeah, they're
okay.
Now, I don't know that any of them are in that top 10.
That's what I'm.
So I need to see that when
when
you get it.
I would say, just looking at my list, improving existing amenities probably falls into that. And lowering fees for residents probably falls into that, which I don't know much about that.
Yeah, I think that's one of those. Let's come back to my comment about realistic.
Sure. Yep.
That's not something we're gonna, I mean, that's an ongoing.
Yep.
Everybody's gonna say that on every survey in any chance they get. So
Yep. I agree.
I would kind of, I still think if you compare us to others, we're very reasonable to say the least. And that might be something else we'll want to do too, is do some benchmarking with other quote unquote resort communities. And again, I'm just going to throw this out as something as an example. Bike paths. What are they doing in Bayside? What are they doing? What's the what's the other community down in just across the Virginia border that the Progress
Kings or yeah.
You know the one I'm talking about,
Yeah.
but you don't.
Yeah.
I can't remember the daggone name. What are they
Captain's
doing there?
Cove.
Captain's Cove. That's
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, what are they doing there? There may be some other communities where there's best practices that we can learn from or copy if necessary. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, okay. All right. Well, I think we got a formulation of a plan. Again, I think our overarching goal, you guys can agree or disagree, I think hopefully you agree, is we've gotten this feedback from the community. Where are there realistic opportunities for improvement and making the community better? Finding out what those are and if there are strategies we can execute to make it so.
Yep.
That makes sense?
Yep.
Yes.
That's kind of, I think that's kind of our goal here. We've got all this intel. Now we got to do something with it. All right. Anybody else? Let's go around the horn.
Yeah. Are we planning on doing anything at the spring kickoff?
No, I made that executive decision.
No problem. Just, I'm gonna be down, so I just thought if we
Yeah,
were doing something,
I mean, if we're
happy to
there,
help.
well, you know what? That might that might be a great opportunity to do some networking there, Wes. In terms of, whatever committee and issue I tap you on the shoulder to address, let's go seek those people out.
Well, I'm hoping to go.
Okay, good.
I'm planning on being down that weekend because one of the reasons we purchased in Ocean Pines, my son has a home there, lives in
Yeah.
Chicago, and they're going to be there this summer again. The last 4 years, my grandson was
Wonderful.
playing football, so they didn't come
Wonderful.
in the summer.
Wonderful. Gotcha. So
So-
wonderful.
Rob, if.
Yeah,
if the
go ahead, Gary.
committee- If the committee is gonna have a table at the kickoff, I need to get the registration in the next several days.
Okay, well, you talk about this committee?
Yes,
We will not.
okay, all right, well then I wasn't sure what Wes was
Yeah.
talking about.
I'm
He
just
just
going to
said
go
he's
hang
gonna-
out.
He's gonna hang out.
Oh, okay,
And I'm not 100% sure where I'm gonna be that weekend, but if I am in there, I will be hanging out too.
okay.
Stuart, yes, sir.
Yeah, just not to go back, but you were talking about what other communities are doing. Listen, the budgeting process, all of our amenities, everything that we do is benchmarked against other communities of similar size, different things. The one you spoke about near on the other side of the state, we benchmark all of the pricing on all of the amenities against every other type of HOA and other facilities that are that offer these types of amenities. So we do that. I just
Good.
wanted to let you know that it's not something
Yeah.
that I wonder if they do it. They do. So,
Yeah, no,
all right.
good, thanks.
Hey,
Stuart,
can I-
Stuart, while we're doing around.
can I-
Barry,
Can
go
I
ahead,
ask
I'm
you a
sorry.
question?
Yeah,
I was just curious. I don't know. Doing the benchmark with the other communities. Do the other communities allow outside people in that you know of?
do they what?
I don't know. I don't know. I would. I'm not going to assume because you know what they say when you assume something, but I would
Right.
think that they do let outside people in. Listen, when you're talking about our pools and
Just
people
in general.
complain all the time. about our pools and how the outside people are taking up the spaces association members don't have. I'm telling you, it's less than 10%.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
email info and ask, but it's not as big a thing as people think it is. And they just think it's a big thing because they can't get in.
Yeah, no, I
Terry,
get
but-
that, I get that.
Terry,
I'm
is that
just
what
cur-
you were
like, there's
driving at? Like,
certain-
let them in to use their
there's certain
amenities? Is
ho-
that what you think?
No. I was just curious because there, exactly what Stuart said about people always complaining about you can't get into the pools. I've not had any issues with that. The
Yeah.
only time that I did have an issue, and it seems to be a big deal, and I know it's a big money grab for the community, is July 4th. I don't even plan on being here with my grandkids and things like that that weekend, because it's just, forget it. We've gotten there at 9:00 in the morning. So I was just wondering if maybe that could be addressed in some way. Like, could there be a priority for weekends to the community? Maybe
Well-
just limited to certain, I know the yacht club is a big moneymaker, and I totally get that. But maybe other pools could be limited to guests or community first up to a certain hour or something.
Terry, the Aquatics Committee has put in a number of suggestions to the board about how to limit the number of outside people that come in on a busy weekend. And so far, we've struck out. It is an issue on 4th of July, and as the summer gets going on weekends, it can get very crowded. And I agree with everything you said, but the Aquatics Committee has been working on all of those issues. And as of right now, the board hasn't wanted to get involved with that.
Yeah, okay.
All right. I had
But I do
something-
think, I do say that is one of the issues, and maybe we should, at some point, that should be looked at.
Well,
I mean, down the road, whatever, it's.
Well, it sounds
definitely,
like- Sounds like aquatics is it's on their radar. So,
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
all
well,
right. There was something I had in my head a second ago and now it's gone.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
Been there, done that.
God, that's a very frequent occurrence, unfortunately, nowadays. All right. Well, anything else for the good of the group before we adjourn for the day? All right.
When's the next meeting?
I have it as May 22nd, 5/22. But we will certainly, as I said, you guys look for, we'll be doing stuff between now and then. I'll take a look at, like I said, I'll take a look at what John sent over as far as the, what his AI tool, kind of bounce it off the one I had. And then look at those issues. Fred, I'll be in touch with you to get together with Linda. And then I said, I'd like to at least assign each one of you to a, hey, here's this issue. Go reach out to aquatics. Here's this issue. Go reach out to Parks and Rec. Well, we already got Terry for Parks and Rec, but you
Well, I'm
get
not
what
the
you get what I'm saying. No, but you're part of that committee, so make more sense for you to talk to Parks and Rec than and let Wesco talk to environment, something like that. So anyway, you get what I'm saying there. You get my drift.
Yeah.
Okay, Stuart, as always, thank you for your support. John, good to have you with us again today. Linda, thank you for your administrative support. Appreciate it. And if nobody else has anything, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
So John Lynch is so moved. Gary is seconded. Hearing no objections, you guys go have a great day, great weekend. And again, I'll be in touch with you next week.
Yep. Great weekend, everybody. Take care.
All right. See you
Take care,
guys.
guys.
Thank you.